So in the next town over, there's this gas station. Actually, it's kind of like a combination of a gas station and supermarket.
I'm at the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
And I don't know, maybe supermarket sounds like too big a phrase. Maybe it's more of a grocery store. I don't know, I'm probably getting into the minutia of this more than I need to. It's a small town store.
Living in a lonely world.
I mean, it's not like it's massive or anything.
Size matters not.
But if you needed to go in to get a gallon of milk or a veggie that you want to cook for your dinner, or if you even want to buy lunch, it's got kind of everything. And really from the farm, it's the closest real store. There's a tiny convenience store just over the hill, but that's not the type of place you'd want to do your grocery shopping. This other store that I'm talking about, which for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to call McFly's, but it's not actually called McFly's, but I don't want to use the name of the store and incriminate myself and maybe get banned from there. Not that I have any harsh criticism of it. I actually love this store. I think it's a great resource for our community. In fact, if our community didn't have McFly's, I think folks in this area would collectively be up Poops Creek with a turd for a paddle. But this store has a problem, and this problem comes in the form of the line at the store. So because this store really started out as a gas station and over the years has grown into a grocery store, the layout's kind of weird. You walk in the front door and you turn to the left, and right to the left is the cashiers, because like the original part of the store was just a gas station and convenience store and kind of had like the standard fare. You turn to the left and you're met with like 3 different cash registers or cashiers. It sort of splits apart, and on the left side you have like all the convenience store food items, and on the right side is like all the grocery store items. And it all sort of comes together and converges at these cash registers. And I know so many of you are watching this video right now and saying, Morgan, what the heck does this have to do with your farm? You better get to your point real quick. And don't worry, you'll see how it all ties together at the end. And so a lot of times, if you go into the store like the middle of the day, it's not gonna be that crowded, and usually one of the 3 cashiers is open and you can just go right to it and check out and pay. But other times when it's like rush hour, like say 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, that store can be packed. It's filled with a combination of people getting off of work, people picking up groceries for the weekend, vacationers who are coming up for the weekend and getting supplies. Relative to more populated areas, packed is probably an extreme term, but for us here in the Northeast Kingdom, it's relatively packed. And so it's at these crowded times that a real dilemma starts to emerge at McFly's. You see, the lines that form in front of the cashiers are kind of like chaos. You never know which register to stand at, and the fairness of which line you're standing in gets all screwed up. Because what will typically happen is most people will form a queue where it creates one line where everybody's waiting for the next available cash register. And I gotta say, I think this is a pretty reasonable way for this to work. It's the fairest way to set up the line, and I think it actually moves the line traffic the fastest possible way, because no cashier is ever waiting without a person who wants to be checked out. It's just one customer after another, after another, after another. Typically, this queue of people sets up on the left-hand side of the lane. But when things don't go typical, that's when the problems start. All right, looks like everybody's got plenty of water. Morning, cows. Of course, it looks like the cattle knocked their minerals out of the mineral feeder. Hey, cows. How you doing this morning? Toby and Abby, what are you sniffing at? Oh, something's got their attention right there. Both dogs are very curious about that spot. What you guys got there? What's going on? If it was just Abby, I wouldn't be so curious, but Toby seems very interested too. Cattle seem kind of confused. Huh, even the calves are interested in this spot. What's going on there, guys? What is it? I don't know, it just looks like some grass and roots. Hey, Kurt Cobain, can you make any sense of it? Sorry for the distraction, it always happens when I'm doing chores. So I was saying, so typically, everybody's forming one single file line on the left-hand side, and then each of the 3 cashiers is there. But then what sometimes happens is, from the right-hand side, somebody who's maybe coming from the other side of the store or sees the long line on the other side decides to go through the right-hand side and immediately step into the next available cashier who opens up on the right-hand side, which was the situation that happened to me yesterday. So I was waiting in line to get a gallon of milk and some salad greens and some bananas and some kombucha and I think some butter. And I had been waiting in this single file line. And I'd been waiting a little bit, like I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. Nothing crazy, but it had been established that me as well as about a half a dozen other people had been clearly waiting there. And I was the next in line waiting for the next available register. But then suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I see a gentleman come in from the right-hand side and immediately stand by the far right-hand side cash register, waiting for that cashier to finish. That cashier finishes her transaction, the customer leaves, and I see that this gentleman is about to cut in line of me as well as the 6 other people who have been waiting in this well-ordered single-file line. Now, me seeing what's about to happen, I know that I'm not gonna stand for it. Oh, look at that. Calves are playing. They're getting so big. Pretty soon that playing is not gonna be cute anymore. Because look, quite honestly, I don't want to be cut in line. I've been waiting, and I feel like if this guy cuts in line, he's doing a disservice to all these other people, and it's my responsibility to help maintain line order.
Is that so? Who made you pope in his dump, huh?
So seizing the moment, I decide to act. So just as the customer is finishing up the previous transaction, this guy and I make eye contact. I try to gesture to the line that's directly behind me, you know, as like a way to tell this guy, hey, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you didn't see that there are a lot of other people waiting here. You know, it's only fair for you to wait your turn. I know that's a lot of information to communicate with 2 seconds of eye contact and a simple head gesture, but I'm pretty sure the guy got the message.
Back in the line, buttball.
And as soon as I convey that message, the guy immediately turns away and breaks eye contact and just focuses on the line. Seeing how the line was on the line, I decided to act quickly. Hey, cows! Come on, cows! Fresh grass for the cows. Come on through. Fresh grass. Single file line, please. Come on through. Anticipating the end of the previous transaction like an NBA center waiting for the tip-off.
O'Neal with the tip.
I stepped forward towards that cash register, made the 3 fastest possible steps that could not be considered running, and ended up at the cash register directly in front of this gentleman who did not look happy at all. I set my basket of groceries on the counter in front of the cashier and then began the process of checking out. And let me just tell you, this dude was not pleased at all. He sort of grumbled behind me, and I turned and I said, oh, the line's back over there. To which he then said,
What do you mean back there? There's no line.
And he said this while staring at the 6 other people who were standing behind me. And so I just kind of chuckled and continued to transact while the guy waited behind me. And then once I finished paying, he ended up taking the spot in line, cutting the 5 or 6 other people who were still waiting in that previous line that I had been waiting in. Other than dagger glances and a few frosty words exchanged, that was it. There was no big fight. There was no pushing and shoving. The whole situation kind of ended with a fizzle. Now, the reason I bring this up to you guys, though, is I'm curious. What do you think of that situation? Was I in the right or was I in the wrong? Did this guy deserve to go next because he decided that that's where the line was? Was I being the jerk because I was enforcing my sense of here's how the world looks and how the world works on this guy who might have seen the situation very, very differently? I mean, heck, I didn't know this guy. He could have been going to McFly's for years and years, like ever since he was a kid, and that's always how the lines work. But now that the store has expanded, he has rejected this new way of ordering up that other people seem to be adhering to. I don't know, it's kind of interesting to me. I feel like in this situation is kind of a good metaphor for the broader world that we're living in. Like, some of the rules that we play by in society are very established and formalized. Others are very cultural and just going from a person's sense of right and fair play. And as I watch in the broader world of cell phone videos of crazy fights and exchanges that happen in public, I start to wonder how much of this is a new phenomena, or just how much of this is something that just happens to happen now that everybody has a video camera in their back pocket. Like, and it's only now that we're capturing these things because we have the ability to capture them. But at least in my perception, problems and conflicts seem to be arising more and more. And I mean, heck, if I look at my story from what happened the other night at McFly's, who's to say that that guy wouldn't have started shoving me, and then I wouldn't have liked being shoved and shoved back, and then the next thing you know, you're seeing a TikTok featuring my ugly mug in a fight. And then BuzzFeed's writing articles on it. And as our collective viewpoint as a society fractures more and more, who's to say which perspective is right and which perspective is wrong? I mean, I know I personally have a perspective on right and wrong, but I'm not necessarily certain that other people share that. And who's to say that I personally am the arbiter of what is right and what is wrong? Is it just the collective view of the masses and what the prevailing view is the right and the wrong? Or is there some sort of deeper moral way of determining that? And I know that's a lot to read into one transaction at a grocery store slash convenience store slash gas station, but ever since it happened, I've been thinking a lot about this one. And so I genuinely ask you guys to see what your perspective is. Was I right for jumping in front of this guy? Was I wrong? Was this guy wrong? Should I just have let it go because it's the type of thing that doesn't matter and could have created a bigger issue? Or was I right to step up because it meant protecting the time of the 6 people who were standing behind me? Again here, guys, I'm bringing this one up more because I'm curious about the broader perspective and how it applies as a principle versus my specific situation, which again was probably really stupid. I will also say I wonder if this was like a cultural thing. Am I bringing like a city mentality to a rural grocery store? And yeah, sure, that's how the lines work at Dwayne Reed, but that does not necessarily mean that's how the lines should work at McFly's. I mean, realistically, that's quite possible. It's not like I've never run afoul of rural culture here in Vermont before.
Go back to Hatfield, where you belong.
Good morning, Mother Goose. How are you and your little ones doing? Everybody looks like they're happy and healthy. You still got plenty of food. I'll change your water in a moment. So yeah, the Mother Goose and her goslings are doing really well. You'll notice there's only 3 now because I've sold another one. I know that when I mentioned that I sold a gosling in the last video, a lot of people were heartbroken. But unfortunately, it's kind of how things have to work on a farm. You know, number one, I can't raise an unlimited number of birds, and at certain points I have to sell baby birds. And then number two, if the farming operation's ever going to be profitable, I got to be willing to part with some of those birds. Oftentimes the most desirable birds are young goslings, particularly for folks who are looking for guardian gooses. This is like the perfect age to hand them over to a new flock, and so that is why you've seen me sell a couple, and I might even sell 1 or 2 more, I don't know. I won't sell all of them on Mama Goose. She's worked too hard to produce this, but I will sell a few more. As for my young gooselings, as you can see, they are pretty much geese now. Soapy's mad at the turkey vultures. Flying pretty darn close and low. Something must be dead in the woods. I'm not worried that they're gonna like attack my birds, but Toby goes on high alert. That's where he's pretty much convinced that it's some sort of aerial predator. He is an absolute beauty. So yeah, I was saying, my baby gooselings basically look like adult geese. Like you can see this one in the foreground is an adult goose, and you can actually see that buff goose female in the background. The ones in the middle are all our teenagers who were hatched out not too long ago. It really is kind of amazing seeing them all grown up.